10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Ayotunde Balogun.
Hello and welcome. Tonight, the Senate removes the chairman of the Code of Conduct Tribunal, Danladi Umar, over alleged gross misconduct. A bill to amend the Constitution and provide for diaspora voting scale second reading in the House of Representatives. And INEC presents certificate of return to the winner of the Ondo State governorship election, Mr. Lucky Aiyedatiwa of the All Progressives Congress, APC.
On business news, NNPC Limited launches Utapate crude oil blend on the global market, targets 80,000 barrels per day by 2025.
On sports news tonight, 22-time Grand Slam champion Rafael Nadal bids emotional final farewell to tennis in front of a sellout crowd in Malaga, Spain.
And from the nation's capital, developing countries urge the COP29 presidency to ensure that the climate conference in Baku, Azerbaijan provides adequate finance to help them fight the impact of climate change.
And in international news from London, the US President Joe Biden has agreed to give Ukraine anti-personnel landmines, a move seen as an attempt to slow Russian troops who have been advancing in Ukraine's east in recent months.
We begin from the upper legislative chamber, and the Senate has invoked Section 157, subsection 1 of the 1999 Constitution to officially sack Mr. Danladi Umar as the chairman of the Code of Conduct Tribunal for alleged misconduct. This gives way for the official resumption of Mr. Abdullahi Bello as the substantive chairman of the tribunal. 84 senators, which constitute two-thirds majority of the Senate, signed in favor of his removal, resolving to forward the resolution to President Bola Tinubu for further action. Our National Assembly correspondent, Glura Umezoke, reports.
The President of the Senate leads other lawmakers into the upper chamber on the second legislative day of the week. Concerns mount as the Senate leader in a motion invokes Section 157, subsection 1 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, calling for the sack of the chairman of the Code of Conduct Tribunal.
That we go to closed section meeting to discuss important matter.
For this reason, the Senate dissolved into a closed-door session for over an hour.
The official conduct of Mr. Yakubu Danladi Umar, who is the chairman of the tribunal, has fallen short of the requisite standard of a public officer. It's on record that Mr. Danladi refused to attend subsequent sittings and public hearings of the Public Petitions Committee, that the invocation of the aforementioned constitutional provision in this circumstance seems to be the only way out to safeguard the sacred image of the Code of Conduct Tribunal.
84 of us agreed in support of this motion. I just want to put it on record. No one that did not support this motion. It's in that respect that I call on you to put the question.
This is the first time the Senate is invoking relevant sections of the Constitution to remove a statutory head of a federal agency from office.
Accordingly, Mr. Danladi Umar is hereby removed in line with Section 157, subsection 1 of the Nigerian Constitution as the chairman of the Code of Conduct Tribunal.
In another motion of urgent national importance, Senator Yahaya Abdullahi raised alarm over the infiltration of the Lakurawa terrorist group into parts of Sokoto and Kebbi states.
If timely, adequate and decisive measures are not taken, this group can spread its foreign reign of terror to other parts of northern parts of the country and beyond.
They even have some international connections. Therefore, there is a need for the government of Nigeria to take this matter very, very very seriously. Otherwise, it may snowball, as did the banditry from Zamfara into virtually every part of northern Nigeria and several parts of north central.
Lawmakers also call for military presence in the affected areas.
Meanwhile, the Senate has equally asked the Ministry of Works to review the concrete road pavement policy, and this followed the decision to probe years of delayed completion of the Odukpani-Itu Federal Highway in Cross River State. Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
Vice President Kashim Shettima has called on governors in the north to scale up investment in the agro-allied industry as a remedy for underdevelopment in the region. The Vice President made the call when he spoke on the unlocking of the economic potential of northern Nigeria at a two-day stakeholders roundtable on northern Nigerian youth development. Our State House correspondent Emperor Simon now reports.
The second day of the Stakeholders Roundtable on Northern Nigerian Youth Development focuses on unlocking the economic potential of the region, the impact of insecurity on the youths, and entrepreneurship education, as well as agriculture entrepreneurship. Vice President Kashim Shettima, represented by the Special Advisor to the President on Political Matters, Mr. Akim Baba Ahmed, begins the discussion with emphasis on harnessing the resources that abound in the country.
There's no better insurance for our expanding population than developing agro-allied industries to create value-added products for local and export markets. This was the legacy of the Sadona, who built value chains around cotton, groundnuts, and other crops. As we champion this vision, we must also engage private sector actors and support them in maximizing the opportunities we create.
The discussion continues at panel sessions where the first set of speakers making a case for financial inclusion of rural communities in the north.
There is the need to call for, number one, the establishment of a lot of these microfinance banks that will lend to some of these unaccessible people or unaccessible places. Instead of lavishing them with palliatives, give them a net to show them how to fish.
The federal government is focused in a Nigeria that works for all, that Nigeria that includes all. There is no economic policy that is being contemplated, that is being pursued in furtherance or in preference to one region or the other.
The second panel session addresses entrepreneurship education as a pathway to youth economic empowerment.
As we are speaking, we are building 3 skill acquisition cities in Kumi. That every year we are going to graduate at least 12,000 youths. And we are partnering with the National Board for Technical Education. We are very lucky.
However, Governor Babagana Zulum of Borno State uses the platform to speak on the tax reform bills before the National Assembly.
I'm pleading to Mr. President not to listen to those people that are telling him that the North are not with him. It's not right. And I'm also appealing to our National Assembly members that they should be very vigilant in order not to fail their mission. I'm a strong member of APC. This administration has done many good things, especially in the areas of student loan support. But any policy that impinges on the rights of the Northerners or rights of any states of the Federation or region of the Federation has to be resisted beyond the federal power.
Stakeholders also stress the need for unity of purpose among governors in advancing the common interest of northern Nigeria. Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
To the Green Chamber now, where a bill to amend the Constitution and provide for diaspora voting has scaled second reading in the House of Representatives. The bill is sponsored by the Speaker and has been referred to the Constitution Amendment Committee for further legislative action. Meanwhile, the House is to investigate the activities of electricity distribution companies with the intent to hold them accountable and safeguard consumer rights. Our National Assembly correspondent Terry Kumi reports.
Honorable colleagues,
Members of the House of Representatives resumed plenary after adjourning yesterday to join the Senate's valedictory session for late Senator Ifeanyi Ubah.
Honorable, please can you stand up?
Without a debate, a constitution amendment bill which seeks to improve the country's electoral process by allowing Nigerians in diaspora to vote in elections in Nigeria quickly scales second reading.
A bill for an act to alter the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Cap C-2-3, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004 to provide voting rights for Nigerians in diaspora and related matters, HB 1530.
Nigerians in diaspora have been agitating to partake in elections in Nigeria, hinged on the argument of their remittances back to the country.
Mr. Speaker.
Next, the attention of the House then turns to motions on notice, one of which is on infrastructure development.
The current deplorable state of the roads, spanning over 20 years since its construction in 1975, has resulted in economic loss and untold hardship for commuters in Akwa Ibom State and Cross River State. The House resolved to urge the Federal Ministry of Budgets and National Planning to ensure the inclusion of Odugbani-Itu Federal Highway construction in the 2025 budget estimates.
In the meantime, the activities of distribution companies have caught the attention of Parliament, who allege a threat to economic stability and welfare of Nigerians.
Worried that consumers are being coerced into paying for meters which they have earlier financed, causing financial strain on households and businesses already facing economic challenges now. The House is also worried about the sabotage of economic development by discos, where essential services are used against citizens intended to serve, thereby stifling growth and development.
Meanwhile, the House has adopted a motion calling for an increase in funding and annual budgetary allocation to federal polytechnics to address issues besetting the institutions. Terry Kumi, Channels Television News.
Now, with the Ondo governorship elections now sorted, the Independent National Electoral Commission has presented the certificate of return to the winner of the poll, Mr. Lucky Aiyedatiwa of the All Progressives Congress, the APC. Now, the ceremony, which took place at the INEC headquarters in Abuja, had in attendance the Ondo State Governor-elect, who is also the incumbent governor, his deputy, the national chairman of the APC, and other prominent members of the party from the state. The electoral umpire describes the just concluded Ondo State governorship poll as a true reflection of the will of the people of Ondo State.
Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa of Ondo State and his deputy walk into the conference room of the Independent National Electoral Commission INEC in Abuja to receive their certificates of return. The event was attended by friends and party members from Ondo State and beyond. The INEC National Commissioner supervising Ondo State gives the opening remarks, defending the outcome of the exercise.
INEC remains steadfast in its commitment to ensuring free, fair, credible, inclusive, and conclusive elections. This ceremony marks the culmination of a democratic process that reflects the will and aspirations of the good people of Ondo State.
One after the other, the certificates of return is presented first to the Deputy Governor-elect and then Governor-elect. The governor expresses gratitude for his victory, promising not to disappoint the people.
To the good people of Ondo State, the mandates you have just renewed via your huge votes across the 18 local government in Ondo State, where we won convincingly. It has placed a burden on me to be able to serve you better than I have in the last 10 months.
Governor Ayedatiwa of the All Progressives Congress APC was declared winner of last Saturday's election after securing 366,781 votes to defeat his closest rival and the former deputy governor of the state, Mr. Ajayi Agbola of the People's Democratic Party (PDP), who scored 117,845 votes.
In part two, after the break, the Jigawa State Tanker Explosion Investigation Panel confirms that 209 lives were lost, while 99 others sustained injuries in the tragic fuel tanker explosion that occurred on October 14th in Maijia Town, Jigawa State. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, broadcasting live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. The Senate removes the chairman of the Code of Conduct Tribunal, Danladi Umar, over alleged gross misconduct. A bill to amend the Constitution and provide for diaspora voting skills second reading in the House of Representatives. And INEC presents certificate of return to the winner of the Ondo State governorship election, Mr. Lucky Ayedatiwa of the All Progressives Congress. The Nigeria Governors Forum is holding a physical meeting at its secretariat in the nation's capital of Abuja. The meeting, which was slated for 8 o'clock, began at about 9:30 p.m. with 16 governors and 3 deputies in attendance. The Deputy Speaker, House of Representatives, Benjamin Kalu, is also attending the meeting as he's expected to make a presentation to the governors on matters relating to the ongoing constitutional amendment efforts by the National Assembly. A copy of the agenda distributed to journalists also shows that the governors will be discussing, among other matters, the issue of stamp duty, royalties accounts reconciliation, and update on the Africa Investment Forum, AIF. The National Working Committee of the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, has held a closed-door meeting with the newly elected state chairman of the party in Abuja amidst agitations to have a substantive national chairman for the party. The meeting, which was attended by chairmen from the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory, is the first of such since the PDP completed its state congresses in October. Although the meeting is coming on the heels of agitations to have a substantive national chairman for the party, the acting national chairman of the PDP maintains that the engagement has nothing to do with the tenure of his National Working Committee.
And to set the record straight, there's no such issue. Issues of name is entirely the tribunal of NWC and the chairman. So we are not calling the chairman here to maybe insinuate anything. So just for the record, it's a normal interactive session to welcome the new chairman that have just joined us for us to know ourselves and also discuss other matters such as the coming zonal congresses. It has nothing to do like being insinuated in the social media about NEC or something of that nature. You can read it verbally.
The United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, has released the 2024 State of the Nigerian Child Report. And while there are improvements in some areas of child welfare in the country, other areas are in dire need of help from the federal government. At the celebration of World Children's Day, which was held at the United Nations House in Abuja, the UNICEF representative in Nigeria, Christian Mundate, made a call for action in the wake of that report. Our correspondent, Kayla Megwa, tells us more.
Children from schools in the Federal Capital Territory, representatives of government agencies, and development partners have again converged at the United Nations House in Abuja to celebrate World Children's Day. And this year's commemoration is themed Listen to the Future, a call the United Nations representative in Nigeria urges the Nigerian government to take seriously.
That children everywhere deserve to have their right respected and their voice heard. In Nigeria, this means committing to policy and actions that uplift every child, no matter where they are or what the circumstance in which they are living in. All of us in the United Nations and our development partner must join hands so we can be most impactful in addressing the challenge faced by children.
UNICEF's summary of the 2024 situation analysis of children and adolescents in Nigeria shows that infant mortality has fallen by 27% since 1990. Child mortality rate has also dropped by 43%. 34,000 operational primary healthcare centers in Nigeria means more access to treatment in rural areas, especially prenatal care. On the downside, 1 in 2 Nigerian children live in poverty. 2.1 million Nigerian children are unvaccinated. 4.9 million Nigerian children need humanitarian assistance. And 8.1 million children of secondary school age are out of school. 40% of children under the age of 5 are stunted, while 8% of them are wasted. 90% of children under the age of 5 have experienced violence, and 70% of households lack access to safe drinking water. UNICEF calls on the Nigerian government to take action.
I have had the privilege of being, I would say, almost in all parts of the country. And I have met these children, and I know the situation and the conditions where they live. And honestly, being there, it really breaks not only your heart, but it makes you feel guilty about not doing enough. So this is a call to action. Your determination and courage will inspire every one of us to work together.
For the United Nations, improving the living situation of Nigerian children, who make up 110 million of the country's population, will require increased allocations for public budgets critical to child-relevant services.
To the courts now, and the Federal High Court sitting in Port Harcourt in Rivers State has adjourned the murder case involving 12 suspects accused of killing a female inspector, Christiana Erekere, at the Taba police checkpoint in Rivers to 4th December, that's December the 4th this year, for continuation of hearing. Now, the trial judge, Justice Augusta Chukwu, adjourned the matter after counsel to the first and third defendants, Sonny Nwokoro, cross-examined one of the witnesses who identified himself as Harrison Emmanuel, a police officer from the Bori division. During the cross-examination, Mr. Emmanuel alleged that the suspect assaulted the late Christiana with sticks and blocks, after which she died on the way to the hospital. The suspects were reportedly traveling from Delta State to Akwa Ibom State for a wedding program on April the 25th this year, when they allegedly hacked the female police inspector to death at her duty post in Taba Police Station, Kana local government area of River State. This was after the suspects, who were traveling in 2 vehicles, were stopped for a routine check in front of the police station. The dead Christiana Erekere, or the late Christiana Erekere, was among a team of police officers conducting the search. Still talking security, the Zamfara State Police Command has arrested a suspected gun runner across the nation's northwest region, a local gun manufacturer, and several suspected bandits. The State Police Commissioner, Mr. Mohammed Dalijan, paraded the suspect at the command headquarters in Gusau, the state capital. Mr. Dalijan explains that the suspects were arrested during several operations within and outside the state. Items allegedly recovered from the suspects include 19 AK-47 rifles, several live ammunition, cash worth over 2.5 million naira, charms, Indian hemp, mobile phones, a power bank, mining machines, and an excavator. Now, the Jigawa State Tanker Explosion Investigation Panel has confirmed that 209 lives were lost, while 99 others sustained injuries in the tragic fuel tanker explosion that occurred on October the 14th in Majia town of the state, of Jigawa State, that is. Now, the panel, chaired by Hafizu Inuwa, submitted its findings in Dutse to Governor Umar Namadi. The investigation revealed that 38 of the injured are still receiving treatment in hospitals, while 61 others have since been discharged. The disaster also affected 167 families, destroying property worth millions of naira. The report attributed the explosion to several factors, including damaged speed breakers and potholes near the accident site, as well as reckless practices such as night driving and excessive speeding. So let's head now to the nation's capital, and Terry Kumi is standing by to give us the very latest from our Abuja studios. Hello, Terry. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Ayo. With a new negotiating text promised by tomorrow morning, developing countries are urging the COP29 presidency to ensure the climate conference in Baku, Azerbaijan, provides adequate finance that will help them fight the impact of climate change. African negotiators are calling for an ambitious new climate finance target of 1.3 trillion naira annually by 2030, reflecting the scale of the continent's needs and the $3 trillion estimated to implement its nationally determined contributions. On the sideline of the conference, the Federal Ministry of Regional Development also canvassed for investments at the COP29.
Delegates, good morning. The urgency for action by the delegates here in Baku has never been clearer, with 2024 on track to be the hottest year on record.
2nd of November.
The presidency's stocktake heard from the ministerial pairs who are consulting with parties and major groups on the technical aspect of the talks that are causing a major rift. Disagreements over money matters were a common thread.
We've heard 3 different proposals for the provided quantum of 900 billion, 600 billion and 440 billion. Others have mentioned a floor of US 100 billion with linkages to the contributor-based resolution, as well as sources and structure. Now, of course, many mentioned that it's important that whatever figure we land on, it be both ambitious and achievable.
As climate finance negotiators push for a breakthrough, the COP29 lead negotiator reminded all that now the hardest part begins and hopes to release the latest text by early morning on Thursday.
But I want to clarify that these texts are not final. They will be open for input and discussion, and we will continue to listen. Based on inputs from the parties, there may be elements in the final text that are not in these drafts.
Developing country blocs, including the African Group of Negotiators, 77 plus China, and the like-minded developing countries, urged the presidency to bring back balance into the process. When asked about the rumored $200 billion for the new collective quantified goal being proposed, the response was,
"Is it a joke?"
So the adaptation gap report that said that the gap for meeting adaptation needs of developing countries is up to 400 billion. So when the figure that you mentioned, 200, that's why colleagues are asking, is it a joke? If it cannot even respond to the gap on adaptation, let alone other things, that we take it as a very big joke indeed.
Meanwhile, in the delegation pavilions, the Federal Ministry of Regional Development discussed the need to foster regional synergies for the climate resilience and inclusive development in Nigeria.
Because we have also outlined the problems, we have seen the challenges, and also action plan to mitigate the effects. So all of this require money, and of course, this is the best place where we can canvas that support from international investors.
The COP president intends to wrap everything up by Friday, but many are accusing him of a rushed approach without transparency. So far, the talks have failed to move forward as expected. From the Olympic Stadium, the venue of COP29 in Baku, Azerbaijan, Ayola Kasim, Channels Television News.
In part 2 after the break, NNPC launches Utapate crude oil blend on the global market, targets 80,000 barrels per day by 2025. That's on Business News. So stay with us. Welcome back to the news at 10. The Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, says more projects will be commissioned before the end of the year. The minister, who expressed satisfaction at the level of work at ongoing sites across the FCT, adds that infrastructural development will touch all parts of the FCT, even after the expiration of the present administration. He stated this while fielding questions from journalists during an inspection tour of some ongoing projects in the nation's capital.
Contractors, you know, we had heavy rains this year, and we gave them December to complete this project. But you can see the level of job they have done, quality job, and this is in the rural area. And I'm very much impressed with all the contractors from Luce, where the SCC is working. And then we got to Shafa in Buari. Then we now went to Kwaita, and then we are now. I'm really impressed, very much impressed, and I'm going to do anything to make sure that funding is not a problem to them. I believe, like they said, they will have it over to us in December. Let us keep to it. I don't want to be pessimistic. I've seen the contractors, they've told me that they will complete this road. And with the good weather we're having now, I think we don't need to doubt them. In as much as we do our own part, I'm sure they will also fulfill their own promise.
The Africa Research Security Consortium, a collaborative initiative of the U.S. State Department, has held the maiden conference focusing on academic research security. The conference identifies the new trends in cyber attacks, especially those targeting products of academic research and intellectual property. Our correspondent Olu Phillips brings us details from the University of Lagos.
Members of the academic community from institutions in Nigeria, from Africa and the West are here to do what they know to do best: identify a problem, research it, and come up with solutions. There's a growing trend of cyber attack on research work, especially of those belonging to the academia. These attackers are also harvesting intellectual properties and redirecting them for malicious use. So, the State Department of the U.S. government has established by collaboration the African Research Security Consortium, which has culminated into this conference to tackle the problem.
To report.
So what are the issues and data available in this regard? The guest facilitator from Houston, Texas puts it this way.
Not happy to see this, Nigeria, your threat level based on Agari research. You are 83%. It means that there's a lot of money in Nigeria, right? Yeah, so the cyber guys are after you. They're after you, your business email compromise. And Ghana is next, 10%. So according to the Interpol, Nigeria lost about 100 million due to SIM boxing. Ghana lost about 60 million. Why the higher eds? The higher educations, we are being compromised. So even though it's not really clear, but you can see these are universities that have been compromised over the last 2 years. A university from Nigeria is part of it. It's called, is it Bangkok University in Nigeria here? Bangkok, yes. That university was compromised. So these guys are after higher education because of our intellectual properties.
Quite revealing is how research work has become a target of cyber attackers. But aside ignorance on the part of the intellectual property owners, there are other acts of omission or commission which makes your work susceptible, and that was highlighted at this panel.
Many of us are naive. We are naive about security in our data. We are naive about discussing, because when you start discussing, you don't know where to stop.
Then there is another catch, that is cyber, where you find that a student engages someone they have never met. It's online, a blah blah professor, this and this university, for quite some time, and then at one point you are asked, okay, send us your maybe concept note or your thesis, we get you a supervisor. Please do not submit your work to people you have never met, you are not sure who they are, unless you are linked by professor.
To tick the progress box for this conference, a few parameters will be sacrosanct. A framework for research in Africa, capacity building, fostering partnerships in research security, and policy design for research security.
Researchers can't do research that can be used for medical treatment, but that can also be used by malicious actors to produce bioweapons.
When all is said and done, it all comes down to these words: trust, but please verify. Olu Phillips, Channels Television News.
Well, that's all from the nation's capital. Let's go back to Lagos now with Aya for the rest of the news.
Thank you so much, Terry. Fidelity Bank has restated its commitment to a sustainable financial inclusion for Nigeria, with 159 million naira up for grabs in its Get Alert in Millions game promo launched in Lagos. This assurance was given by the management of the bank to herald this year's edition of the Customers Empowerment event.
This is the 6th edition of Fidelity Bank's Get Alert in Millions game promo, and present to announce the 9-month-long season are management of the bank and representatives of lottery regulatory authorities in Nigeria. The Executive Director, Lagos and Southwest Fidelity Bank PLC, encourages Nigerians to take advantage of the opportunity provided by the game promo.
As we kick off this season, I encourage all Nigerians to take advantage of the incredible opportunities presented by this campaign. Whether you are opening your first savings account with Fidelity Bank, or you're already an existing customer in the bank, Game 6 promo presents another opportunity to win big.
The Get Alert in Millions game promo has empowered thousands of Nigerians since it commenced and is back to gift 4,420 customers with various cash prizes.
Now we have special prizes allocated to different segments, like the students who have their own reward scheme. And the beautiful thing is that they have their special reward, that they can also participate in the overall big rewards that happen every month for everybody.
The promo is in its 6th phase and has been carried out and monitored by relevant lottery agencies in Nigeria.
We commend the players and participants. We encourage them to take part responsibly, and at the end, everybody will be a winner.
Going forward, the bank says it will provide advisory services to winners on how best to utilize their monies.
There's going to be financial advisory services, which is very unique, which is about helping them to discover their potential and build up their businesses to the next level.
We have so many winning opportunities, so don't get left out. I encourage everyone to be a part of this year's Game 6 promo.
With the token of 10,000 naira, you are privileged to save big money. It's a good opportunity for every one of us. So let's go for it.
The season 6 of Get Alert in Millions promo is a 9-month-long scheme launched with 159 million naira earmarked as prize money in weekly, monthly, and grand draws.
Business News is up next with Will Ibom. Will?
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Ayotunde. The NNPC Limited has launched a new crude oil grade, the Utapate blend, on the global market. Unveiled at the Argos European Crude Conference in London, the blend is praised for its low sulfur content and high value yield, attracting buyers from Europe and the US. NNPC EP Managing Director Nicholas Foucault says that production from the Utapate field in Akwa Ibom State has reached 40,000 barrels per day, with exports already underway. He adds that plans are in motion to increase increase output to 80,000 barrels per day by late 2025. NNPC says this launch highlights its commitment to boosting Nigeria's crude production while prioritizing environmental sustainability and adding value to the global energy market. And the World Bank has awarded Imo State $4 million. That's about 6.8 billion naira for promoting accountability and improving the ease of doing business. The award comes under the State Action on Business Enabling Reform (SABRE) program. Imo State's Commissioner for Information, Honorable Declan Emelumba, who made this known at a press briefing in Owerri, says Imo is one of only 4 states in Nigeria to qualify for the award.
But there are 4 major criteria, 4 major frameworks for assessing the states. And when the World Bank is satisfied that those state has met those criteria, he now rewards you with this handsome cash. And the criteria is based on, 1 is the efficiency of land administration. 2, the regulatory framework for private investment in fiber optic infrastructure.
And at the domestic equities market, it's 3 days of rolling in the green as Unilever, Lafarge largely boosted the markets. Ladi Williams tells us more.
Well, it's another day, another Naira, the local bourse, and it's uptick for the all-share index in the week before the monetary policy meeting. Yes, rate setting season is upon us, and the all-share index up 0.26%, claiming back that 98,000 level by about 227 points. Market cap 59 trillion. Look at the sectoral performance. Sectoral performance, see the banking counter marginally up there, about 0.06%. Consumer goods there with the likes of Honeywell Flour up, bumping up the counter, is up 1.09%. Let's look at the tier 1 banks now. We see FBNH closed at almost 1% up today, with Zenith Bank also adding to that, contributing to the gain that I was seeing in the market today. So 36 stocks gained against 26 decliners, leaving the bull in charge.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Will. Ukraine has fired UK-supplied Storm Shadow missiles at targets inside Russia for the first time. This comes barely a day after Kiev was given permission from Washington to fire US-supplied missiles at Russian territory. Here's Simon Pierce with other international news and Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. US President Joe Biden has agreed to give Ukraine anti-personnel landmines, a move seen as an attempt to slow Russian troops who have been steadily advancing in Ukraine's east in recent months. The official, who was speaking on condition of anonymity, said such mines would be delivered soon, and Washington expected that they would be used on Ukraine's territory. Ukraine was also committed to not using the mines in densely populated areas, the official said. Separately, the US State Department said it would close its embassy in Kyiv after it received specific information of a potential significant air attack. Jimmy Lai, one of Hong Kong's most influential pro-democracy figures, has testified in court for the first time in a national security trial that may see him sentenced to life in jail. The 76-year-old founder of the now defunct Hong Kong tabloid Apple Daily has been accused of colluding with foreign forces. But Mr. Lai told the court that he had never used his foreign contacts, which include ex-US Vice President Mike Pence and former Taiwan President Tsai Ing-wen, to influence foreign policy on Hong Kong. Lai is already serving prison sentences for a range of offences for his alleged role in pro-democracy protests in 2019. US President-elect Donald Trump has picked former World Wrestling Entertainment CEO and his transition co-chair, Linda McMahon, as his nominee for Education Secretary.
There was something, right?
A longtime Trump ally, McMahon led the Small Business Administration during Trump's first presidency and donated millions of dollars to his presidential campaign. Trump has criticised the Department of Education and has promised to close it down, a job McMahon could be tasked with after Mr. Trump returns to the White House in January 2025.
Pennsylvania, we have one question.
Mr. Trump earlier chose Mehmet Oz, a celebrity doctor and former TV host, whose approaches have come under scrutiny, to lead the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Meanwhile, the president-elect joined Elon Musk in Brownsville in Texas to watch the 6th test launch of a SpaceX Starship spacecraft. Earlier this month, Mr. Trump chose Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy to lead a new Department of Government Efficiency. Trump said the pair would act in an advisory capacity and that DOGE would not be an official government department. SpaceX was reattempting an operation where the rocket booster is caught in a landing dock on its return to Earth, which was achieved for the first time during Starship's 5th test flight. But due to an issue, SpaceX aborted the plan and the booster splashed down in the Gulf of Mexico after just minutes in the air. The prominent Ugandan opposition figure Kizza Besigye, who has contested and lost 4 presidential elections against President Yoweri Museveni, has appeared before a military court in the capital Kampala. He has denied charges that include the illegal possession of firearms and negotiating to buy firearms abroad. His appearance comes after his wife said he was kidnapped in neighbouring Kenya and sent back home where he was being held in a military jail. Besigye was told during the military court hearing, held amid heavy security, that he would remain in custody until the 2nd of December. Mourners, including Liam Payne's One Direction bandmates and his girlfriend Kate Cassidy, have gathered to say goodbye at his funeral. Harry Styles, Louis Tomlinson, Niall Horan and Zayn Malik are among the family and friends who attended the private ceremony, which took place at a church in the home counties. Simon Cowell, who put the band together on the X Factor, was also pictured arriving at the service. Tributes were earlier left in his hometown, Wolverhampton. The 31-year-old died after he fell from a 3rd-floor balcony at the Casa Sur Hotel in Buenos Aires in Argentina in October. And snowfall has hit parts of Europe for the first time this year as temperatures dipped below 0 degrees. Here, a winter wonderland arriving in Bavaria in Germany. The first snow here also covering the Swiss Jura Mountains. And here, drone videos showing houses topped with a fresh layer of snow in the English town of Leek. Weather warnings forced almost 200 schools to close their doors in England. Temperatures are expected to dip significantly below the usual mid-November norms around Europe in the coming days. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. Welcome to Sports News. Edo Queens players are turning their attention to the 3rd-place match against Egypt side FC Masar after losing their final ticket to TP Mazembe. Making their debut in the CAF Women's Champions League, the girls are not losing sleep over the defeat. The 3rd-place match will be played on Friday, 6 p.m. Nigerian time.
Nothing happened. It's just a game of football. Anything can happen, whether you win, lose or draw. So that's normal for every team. As you know, our team is good. And TP Mozambique, they are good also.
Well, we are not satisfied. But you can see it's just like that. That is the game. We tried our best, but either we win, draw, or you lose. We are playing the 3rd place. I'm sure that we tried all we could to get the 3rd place. So God will help us.
That sports is back to you, Ayo.
Many thanks, Chris. And the main news again. The Senate has removed the chairman of the Code of Conduct Tribunal, Danladi Umar, over alleged gross misconduct. A bill to amend the Constitution and provide for diaspora voting has scaled 2nd reading in the House of Representatives. And INEC has presented certificate of return to the winner of the Ondo State governorship election, Mr. Lucky Ayedatiwa of the All Progressives Congress, APC. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Ayo Tunde Balogun. You have a good night.